Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Deep Dive Podcast. I'm Ethan, joined by my amazing co-host, Sophia.
Hey there, everyone. We're so glad to have you with us for today's important discussion.
Before we get started, I wanted to ask you something, Sophia. Have you ever thought about getting a breast screening test?
You know, Ethan, I've thought about it but haven't done it yet. But let me turn the question around. Have you ever considered getting screened for cancer?
Me? Honestly, not really. Why do you ask?
Because cancer doesn't just affect women, it can affect men too, especially with habits like smoking or drinking alcohol, which increase the risk of certain cancers. It's just as important for men to take care of their health and get screened.
That's a great point. You're absolutely right. Cancer can affect anyone. And today's episode is a stark reminder of that reality. We're talking about a young woman just 20 years old who was diagnosed with an increasingly common cancer. She's bravely sharing her story, symptoms, and the challenges of living with her condition.
This is such an important conversation. Whether you're a young woman or a man, this episode is for everyone. Early detection can save lives. So before we jump in, make sure to subscribe to our channel and share this episode with someone you care about.
Well, let's all take a moment to think about how we can prioritize our health and encourage others to do the same. Now, let's dive into today's topic.
Welcome to a deep dive on a topic that's, unfortunately becoming more and more relevant, especially for young people, cancer.
Right.
We're going to explore why cancer diagnoses seem to be rising in this age group, and more importantly, what you can do to stay informed and proactive about your health.
Yeah. What's really striking about the articles that you've gathered is this blend of personal stories and expert advice. We have several accounts from individuals in their late teens and early 20s who were diagnosed with different types of cancer, alongside insights from medical professionals and organizations like the World Health Organization.
Right. So it's like we have the human side of the story and the scientific side,
Exactly.
which I think is really powerful. Let's start with the personal accounts. We have Dominique, Aaron, and Jay, all diagnosed with cancer in their 20s.
Yeah.
What's the common thread running through their experiences?
What's fascinating here is that all three initially missed or dismissed early symptoms because they resembled common ailments or stress. Dominique, who had colorectal cancer, even mentions looking healthy on the outside while battling this serious illness. So this really emphasizes how crucial it is to be your own advocate and push for answers, even if initial tests come back normal.
That's so important. It's easy to brush off fatigue or night sweats, especially when you're young, and juggling work, school, and life in general. But as we see from these stories, sometimes those seemingly minor symptoms can actually be red flags.
Exactly. And another key takeaway specifically from Aaron's experience with Hodgkin lymphoma is that we shouldn't rely solely on blood tests. He had normal blood work despite having a type of blood cancer.
Wait, so you can have blood cancer and still have normal blood work?
Yes. It's not as straightforward as many people think. There are various types of lymphoma, and some don't always show up in initial blood tests.
Okay, so let's define lymphoma for our listener. Since it's come up a few times now, it's a type of cancer that affects the lymphatic system, which is part of your immune system. There are two main categories, Hodgkin lymphoma and non-Hodgkin lymphoma.
Right.
Each type has its own set of characteristics and treatment approaches.
That's a great explanation. And going back to the point about blood tests, Aaron's experience just goes to show how vital it is to seek medical advice. If you have persistent, unexplained symptoms, even if initial tests appear normal, early detection is often key when it comes to cancer treatment.
So being aware of your body and advocating for your health are really half the battle here. We're seeing this theme emerge again and again in these personal stories. Jordy, who was also diagnosed in her 20s, makes a similar point about lymphoma symptoms mimicking stress or other common issues, especially in young adults.
And that's such an important point. It's easy to write off those symptoms as something minor when you're young, but we can't overemphasize how crucial it is to listen to your body and not ignore those signs.
Absolutely. So we've heard these powerful personal accounts, and it's clear that early detection is so critical. But what about prevention? Is there anything we can do to lower our risk in the first place?
That's a great question, and it's where the expert advice comes in. The articles you shared highlight some consistent recommendations from medical professionals and organizations like the World Health Organization.
Let's dive into those recommendations. One article features a cancer dietitian who specifically advises avoiding alcohol and processed foods to reduce cancer risk. She makes a pretty compelling case for both.
What I find fascinating about her recommendations is that they align perfectly With the broader guidelines from the WHO, they also emphasize a balanced diet, regular physical activity, and avoiding tobacco and excessive alcohol.
It seems like there's a real consensus forming around those lifestyle factors. But why are they so important? What's the science behind these recommendations?
The dietitian does a good job explaining that. She
Oh.
points out how alcohol metabolizes into a substance called acetaldehyde, which is a known carcinogen.
Hold on, carcinogen. We should probably define that for our listener. A carcinogen is basically any substance that can cause cancer by damaging DNA and promoting abnormal cell growth.
Exactly. So when you drink alcohol, your body converts it into this harmful carcinogen, which increases your risk of several types of cancer, including breast cancer, colon cancer, liver cancer, and more. The dietitian emphasizes that there's no safe level of alcohol consumption when it comes to cancer risk.
That's pretty sobering information,
Yeah.
literally. So avoiding alcohol is one piece of the puzzle. What about processed foods? Why are they linked to an increased cancer risk?
This is where it gets really interesting. The dietitian explains that processed foods often contribute to obesity, and obesity leads to chronic inflammation and hormonal imbalances within the body. These imbalances, in turn, create an environment that's more favorable for cancer cells to develop and grow.
So it's not just about weight itself. It's about the internal changes that obesity can trigger and how those changes can increase cancer risk.
Precisely, and it's worth noting that processed foods often contain high amounts of added sugar, unhealthy fats, and artificial ingredients, which can further contribute to inflammation and other health problems.
Wow, so we're seeing how these seemingly simple lifestyle choices can have a profound impact on our health.
Absolutely, and it's empowering to know that we have some control over these risk factors. By making conscious choices about our diet and lifestyle, we can actively reduce our risk of developing cancer.
Okay, so we talked about avoiding alcohol and processed foods, but the WHO also mentioned a balanced diet. What does that look like in practical terms?
Well, the WHO guidelines recommend focusing on whole, unprocessed foods, like fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and lean protein sources. They also emphasize limiting red and processed meats, which have been linked to an increased risk of certain cancers, especially colorectal cancer.
It's about shifting our focus towards nutrient-rich foods that support overall health and well-being.
Exactly, and don't forget about regular physical activity. The WHO recommends at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic activity, or 75 minutes of vigorous intensity aerobic activity per week.
That might sound like a lot.
Yeah.
But you can break it down into smaller chunks throughout the week. Even a brisk walk every day can make a difference. And it's not just about preventing cancer. Exercise has a ton of other health benefits, too.
Absolutely. It can improve cardiovascular health, boost your mood, strengthen your bones and muscles, and so much more.
So we're seeing a clear picture emerging here. Avoiding tobacco, limiting alcohol, eating a balanced diet, and getting regular exercise. These aren't just trendy health tips.
Right.
They're evidence-based recommendations that can significantly reduce our risk of developing cancer.
And it's important to remember that these lifestyle changes don't have to be drastic. Even small, gradual changes can make a big difference over time.
That's a really encouraging message. It's not about being perfect. It's about making conscious choices and incorporating healthy habits into our daily lives.
Exactly, and it's never too early or too late to start making those changes.
So we've covered a lot of ground on prevention, but what about early detection? What role does that play in the fight against cancer?
Early detection is absolutely crucial. In many cases, finding cancer early before it has a chance to spread significantly increases the chances of successful treatment.
That makes sense. The earlier you catch it, the better the prognosis. But how do we actually go about detecting cancer early? What should we be looking for?
That's where organizations like the Mayo Clinic and the American Cancer Society come in. They provide a wealth of information on cancer screening and early detection methods. The Mayo Clinic, for example, offers excellent resources on breast cancer, including guidelines for self-exams and mammograms.
Right. The Mayo Clinic stresses that while self-exams can't prevent breast cancer, they can help you become more familiar with your body so you can notice any changes and seek medical attention promptly.
Exactly. It's all about being proactive and knowing your own body. The American Cancer Society echoes this sentiment, highlighting the importance of regular screening for various types of cancer, including breast cancer, colon cancer, cervical cancer, and prostate cancer.
So these organizations provide really specific guidance on when to start getting screened, how often to get screened, and what types of tests are recommended.
And they also offer valuable information on the different types of cancer, the symptoms to watch out for, and the latest treatment options available. It's a great place to start your research and stay informed.
It sounds like they're really comprehensive resources that can help you navigate the often confusing world of cancer screening and early detection.
Absolutely. And remember, knowledge is power. The more you know about cancer, the better equipped you'll be to advocate for your health and make informed decisions about your care.
So we've talked about the personal impact of cancer, the importance of prevention, and the crucial role of early detection. But this is just the beginning of our deep dive. What else can our listener expect as we continue exploring this complex and often overwhelming topic?
Well, in the next part of our deep dive, we'll delve into the role of the internet and social media. In shaping our understanding of cancer, we'll discuss how to evaluate online information, identify credible sources, and navigate the sea of conflicting advice and opinions that often flood our news feeds. We'll also touch on the importance of public health initiatives and policies aimed at reducing cancer risk factors and improving access to care for everyone.
That sounds like a fascinating and essential conversation. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back to our deep dive on cancer awareness and prevention. Before the break, we were talking about the power of knowing your body and being proactive about your health. And, that leads us right into the topic of the internet and social media. They've become such powerful tools for accessing information.
Yeah.
But it can be a mixed bag, especially when it comes to health topics like cancer.
What's fascinating is how the internet has democratized health information. You no longer have to rely solely on doctors or medical textbooks. You have a wealth of resources at your fingertips. But as you said, it's a double-edged sword.
Right. I mean, think about it. You can find support groups, connect with people going through similar experiences, and learn about the latest research all from your phone. But then you also have misinformation, sensationalized headlines, and conflicting advice that can leave you feeling totally overwhelmed and confused. How do you even know what to trust?
That's the million-dollar question, and it's something we see reflected in the articles you've shared. One article highlights how online forums can be incredibly helpful for sharing experiences and finding emotional support, but then another article cautions against taking medical advice from unqualified sources or believing everything you read online.
So it's like navigating a minefield of information. You have to be your own fact checker, which can be daunting, especially when you're already dealing with a health concern.
It's all about developing critical thinking skills and becoming a discerning consumer of online health information.
Okay, that sounds good in theory, but how do you actually DO that? Where do you even start?
Well, first and foremost, be skeptical. Don't just blindly accept anything you read online, even if it sounds convincing or comes from someone who seems knowledgeable.
Right. Everyone has an opinion these days, and it's easy to get swayed by a compelling story or a strong personality. But that doesn't necessarily mean the information is accurate or evidence-based.
Exactly. So look for information from reputable sources, like government health agencies, well-established medical institutions, and respected patient advocacy organizations. Think of organizations like the World Health Organization, the Mayo Clinic, or the American Cancer Society.
Those are all names people recognize and trust. But what if you're researching a more specific type of cancer or treatment? How do you know if a website or organization is reliable?
Here's a helpful tip. Look at the website's domain name. Government websites usually end in .gov. Educational institutions use .edu. And nonprofit organizations often use .org. While this isn't a foolproof method, it can be a quick way to gauge the source's credibility.
That's a good point. And I guess you should also be wary of websites that are trying to sell you something, like supplements or miracle cures.
Absolutely. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Be especially cautious of websites that make grand claims without any scientific evidence to back them up.
And what about those anecdotal stories you mentioned? The personal experiences people share online. How do you weigh those against the more scientific information you find from reputable sources?
Personal stories can be incredibly powerful and inspiring. But it's crucial to remember that they're just that personal experiences. They don't necessarily reflect the broader scientific understanding of a disease or treatment.
So you shouldn't base your medical decisions solely on someone else's experience, no matter how compelling it might sound.
Exactly. Anecdotal evidence can be a valuable starting point for research or conversation with your doctor, but it shouldn't be the sole basis for your healthcare choices.
It's all about finding that balance between the personal and the scientific. And I guess another important tip is to check the dates. On articles and research studies, medical knowledge is constantly evolving, so make sure the information is up to date.
That's an excellent point. A study published 10 years ago might not reflect the current understanding of a particular cancer or treatment.
Right, and that's something to keep in mind when you're researching online. So we've talked about evaluating sources and looking for red flags. But what's the next step? How do you actually make sense of all the information you're finding?
One helpful strategy is to cross-reference information from multiple sources. If you find the same information repeated on several reputable websites, it's more likely to be accurate.
That makes sense. It's like getting a second or third opinion, but online.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to reach out to your doctor or other healthcare providers with any questions you have. They can help you interpret the information you're finding, clear up any confusion, and guide you towards reliable resources.
That's a really important reminder. Your doctor is still your best resource, even in the age of Google. They can provide personalized advice based on your specific medical history and needs.
And if you're ever feeling overwhelmed or uncertain, don't hesitate to seek a second opinion from another healthcare professional.
So it's all about being proactive, doing your research, and having open communication with your medical team.
Precisely, it's about becoming an informed and empowered participant in your own healthcare journey.
And that leads us to another key takeaway from the articles: the importance of public health initiatives and policies. We can't just rely on individuals to make healthy choices. There needs to be a supportive environment that makes those choices easier.
What's fascinating here is how the individual and the societal intersect. One article highlights the role of public health campaigns. In raising awareness about cancer prevention and early detection, these campaigns can reach a wider audience and have a greater impact than individual efforts alone.
That's a great point. Think about those anti-smoking campaigns. They've been incredibly effective in reducing smoking rates, and in turn, decreasing the incidence of lung cancer.
Exactly. And those campaigns work on multiple levels. They provide information, change social norms, and advocate for policy changes that make it harder to smoke.
So it's not just about telling people what to do, it's about creating an environment that supports healthy choices. And that can take many forms, right? From access to healthy food options and smoke-free public spaces, to urban planning that encourages physical activity.
Absolutely. Think about bike lanes, parks, and walkable neighborhoods. These are all examples of how urban planning can influence our lifestyle choices and ultimately our health outcomes.
It's like building health into the fabric of our communities. And that brings up another crucial aspect: addressing disparities in access to healthcare and cancer prevention resources. Not everyone has the same opportunities to live a healthy life, and that can have a direct impact on cancer risk.
What's really striking about the research on health disparities is how deeply intertwined they are with social and economic factors. Factors like income, education, race, and geographic location can all influence a person's risk of developing cancer and their access to quality healthcare.
For example, one article highlights how people living in low-income neighborhoods often have limited access to fresh produce and healthy food options. They might live in food deserts, where fast food restaurants and convenience stores are more prevalent than grocery stores.
And they might face other barriers to healthy living, like unsafe neighborhoods that make it difficult to exercise outdoors, lack of transportation to healthcare facilities, or even language barriers that hinder effective communication with medical professionals.
So it's not just about personal responsibility. It's about systemic factors that create unequal opportunities for health. We need to address these underlying issues if we want to make a real dent in cancer rates.
And that requires a multi-pronged approach that involves policy changes, community-based interventions, and a commitment to social justice.
It's a complex issue, but it's one we can't ignore. Everyone deserves the chance to live a long and healthy life, regardless of their background or zip code.
Absolutely, and this deep dive has really highlighted how interconnected these issues are. From the personal stories of individuals facing cancer, to the broader social and economic factors that influence health outcomes, it's all part of a complex web.
So where do we go from here? What can our listener do with all this information? How can they take action and become more involved in the fight against cancer?
That's a great question, and it's one we'll explore further in the final part of our deep dive. We'll discuss how to become a more informed advocate for your own health, and how to support efforts to improve cancer prevention, early detection, and treatment for everyone.
Sounds like we have a lot more to unpack. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back to the deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground, from personal stories of resilience to the science behind prevention and the often overwhelming world of online health information. But here's the thing: information alone isn't enough. What matters is what we do with that information. How can we become empowered advocates for our own health and for a better future when it comes to cancer?
That's a powerful question, and one that's woven throughout the articles that you've shared. It's not just about passively absorbing knowledge. It's about translating that knowledge into action.
Okay, so let's get practical. What are some concrete steps our listener can take to become a more informed and active participant in their own health journey?
Well, first and foremost, continue doing what you're doing right now. Learning, researching, and staying informed about cancer symptoms, prevention strategies, and treatment options. Knowledge truly is power.
Right. And this deep dive is just a starting point. There's a whole world of information out there, and we've provided you with some reliable resources to guide your exploration. But it's not just about individual learning. We can also advocate for change on a larger scale.
Absolutely. One article highlighted the power of shared experiences and storytelling. By sharing our stories, we can raise awareness, challenge stigma, and create a more supportive environment for those affected by cancer.
And sharing your story doesn't have to mean writing a memoir or giving a TED Talk. It can be as simple as talking to friends and family about your experiences, or sharing a helpful article on social media.
Even those small acts can make a difference. They can help normalize conversations about cancer, break down barriers of fear and silence, and encourage others to take action.
And speaking of taking action, another article emphasized the importance of supporting cancer research and advocacy organizations. There are so many amazing groups out there working tirelessly to find better treatments, improve prevention strategies, and support patients and families.
Exactly. And there are countless ways to get involved. You can donate to a cause you believe in, volunteer your time, participate in fundraising events, or even advocate for policy changes that support cancer research and care.
It's about using your voice and your resources to make a difference. And it doesn't have to be a huge grand gesture. Even small contributions can have a ripple effect.
And you know what's really inspiring is that many of these organizations are driven by the personal experiences of cancer survivors and their families. They're channeling their own challenges into a force for good, a force for change.
That's so powerful. It shows how personal experiences can fuel collective action. And it brings us back to that question we posed earlier. How can we as a society create a world where everyone has the opportunity to live a healthy life, free from the fear of cancer?
It's a big question, a challenging question, but it's one we need to keep asking. And it's not a question with one easy answer. It requires a multifaceted approach that involves scientific advancements, public health initiatives, policy changes, and a commitment to social justice.
It's about addressing the root causes of health disparities, ensuring access to quality health care for everyone, and fostering a culture that prioritizes prevention and early detection.
And it's about continuing to fund research, explore new treatment options, and support those affected by cancer.
It's a journey, not a destination. But it's a journey worth taking. We've seen the resilience of the human spirit, the power of knowledge, and the impact of collective action. And that gives me hope.
Me too. And remember, you don't have to wait for a cure to make a difference. You can start today right now by taking care of your own health, sharing your knowledge and supporting the fight against cancer in whatever way feels meaningful to you.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listener with a final thought. We've explored the science, the statistics, the stories, but at the heart of it all is the human experience. It's the stories of courage, resilience, and hope that truly inspire us to keep pushing forward, to keep fighting for a future where cancer no longer holds the power to steal our loved ones, our dreams, our lives.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you've gained valuable insights and feel empowered to take charge of your health and well-being.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay well.
That brings us to the end of today's episode. We hope the story of this courageous young woman reminds everyone how vital it is to take your health seriously.
Whether you're a woman or a man, screening for cancer is so important. Don't wait until it's too late. Take action today.
And to all the men out there, don't think this doesn't apply to you. Smoking, drinking, and other factors can increase your risk, so make sure you're getting checked too.
That's right. Your health is your greatest wealth, so take care of it. And encourage your loved ones to do the same.
Thanks for spending time with us today. If you found this episode helpful, please subscribe to our channel and share it with your friends and family.
And drop a comment below. What steps do you take to stay healthy? We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Thanks again for being with us. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive. Bye for now.